A global namaste to you all, wherever you're watching us today from. Welcome to today's broadcast. My name is Nishit Kotak. I'm here with the team from Hindu Academy. So, if you are new to the broadcast and have just joined us, welcome. You may be watching us on facebook.com/Hindu Academy, or you would be watching us on youtube.com/Hindu Academy. Now, either way, welcome to the call. If you are new, let me just explain the format of this call. We run for about 45 to 50 minutes every week. We start at 2 o'clock on Saturday, UK time. And the whole discussion is around general questions and answers to do with Hinduism. So we usually start with a focus topic video. Today's focus topic is going to be, how do Hindus view Jesus Christ? Seeing tomorrow is Christmas, a day that is celebrated by many people around the world. Let's have a look at this topic, and then we'll move into any general questions on Hinduism. Today, I have with me our team here. We've got Sita Ben, we've got Vijay Bhai. Welcome to the call today. And we will get started with the focus topic video, and then we will move on to a discussion around it. So here we go. I'm going to just share the video, bear with me.
With avatars, what we have to bear in mind is this. Even though they come with a very powerful, dynamic spiritual message, the message will be, in a way, cast in a particular mold that suits the time and the place in which they were interacting with. They must address the needs of the people they were interacting with. None of the avatars, however grand and great they may be, gave you an absolute prescription. All the prescriptions were relative to the time and people they were working with. Please recognize this. And I'm telling people of other religions to do the same with their prophets. I say you can give them dignity, but recognize the contextual aspects of the teachings. Do not give them absolute status. Even though they were grand personalities doing good to humanity, whenever they opened their mouth, they were operating in the field of the relative, not absolute. So the language was relative, was contextual. They would use the terminology, the metaphor that suited the time and the people they were interacting with. It could not be otherwise. Thankfully. Otherwise, they can't relate to us anymore. Suppose, I'm just giving an example. Suppose Christ went to the forest, he had spiritual experience, he comes back into society, he talks high philosophy of this transcendent experience. The people will throw him out of the village. They won't listen to him at all. But if Christ says, I just saw the Father in heaven, they say, yes, we know Father, and we have been hearing about this heaven place that we are going to go when we die. And this fellow is talking that he's been there, and he's seen the Father. He's talking sensible stuff. Otherwise, they'll stone him. If he talk esoteric, spiritual experience, transcendence, absolute, they'll say, what is that? Go away. He has to talk in terms that relates to them, in their language, in the metaphor they relate to. So everything Christ did, if you look at his teachings, he's using metaphors, parables, stories, narratives to get across his idea of his own very personal, transcendent experience. So every prophet, when he opens his mouth, he's now operating in the field of the relative. So however good and grand their sayings may be, please recognize the contextual limitations of what they said. These people sometimes forget. So Ram, in a way, reflected the contextual needs of his time. And what was the contextual need of his time? Here you see a transition of humanity from being almost animalistic, fighting for bigger and bigger land and bigger piece of land and more money and more power and position and material possession. This is what humanity was there in time of Ram. Here is this one particular king who stood against this idea. He put in a new idea, not expanding kingdoms, but giving up kingdoms for high principles. His own kingdom he walked out. See, a new idea being put into society, infused in that society that suited the needs of that society to grow up, become less animalistic and become more humane. That's what Ram did. So in a way they reflect the needs of the society, and the way they present the message of spirituality will relate to the people and the needs of that people. All of them. Look, I am, for example, personally charged by a personality called Vivekananda. So when I look at Vivekananda's teaching, I see exactly why what he said has such relevance to the world that he was interacting with, not with the ancient world, but in this world with many religions coexisting. That was his language. When Vijayabhai looks at the story of Swami Narayan, he sees that person in that particular guise fulfilling the need of that society at that particular moment of time. He will fulfill that and do a good job. And the reason why they don't mess around is this. Do you know why they can't get it wrong? Because they are plugged in the idea of spirit. They see themselves everywhere. They see themselves reflected in other human beings. That's what it means being spiritual. So if they are in that particular state of mind, they can't get things wrong. Haven't you noticed? Suppose a mother loves her child. The way she will express her love will automatically take into account the real needs of the child in the most suitable manner without knowing how. It happens naturally because they love. So they can't get it wrong. So every prophet of every age of every religion did just that. They related to the society they were working with. They were in love with the society, so they can't get it wrong. They will use every ploy just right, just engineered for the needs of that particular mindset of people they were working with. They would have to address the mindset of the people. They can't just talk absolute things and do philosophy. It doesn't work. Because you see, if they were just pure pandits, it'll work. It means they'll go in their own little groups and be a pandit. No good. They can't influence society. Because they love humanity, they want to interact with humanity, they want to infuse spirituality in the world they live in, they will go out of their way to produce the best tools that are suited to carry out the task. And they will present a message that is most needed in that particular period. With Ram, we find this idea of living for principles, not property and possession, giving up this materialistic approach to a more spiritual approach, a more divinified approach of life. Ram represents that. Another feature of Ram is this. Everybody lives for themselves. Here is this guy who lives for everybody else. Doesn't live for himself for a moment throughout his life. The poor chap, I feel sorry for him. He never lived for himself. He sacrificed everything, including his wife, saying, send her to the forest. He was prepared to let go of everything. Here we see a new dynamism of Hinduism. Living for others, not living for yourself. Ram means that. This is the deeper idea of, see, this avatar of that time. Again, this idea, some of the ideas you can see they carry, so they're not any less important today. But at that juncture in history, they were crucial to, if you like, shape the way civilization was going to move forward. And he shaped the way. And the third endearing feature of Ram is the idea of integration and assimilation. Even modern society has not learned that lesson. When civilizations meet another civilization, civilizations must learn to take the best of each other and grow, become more mature civilization. Take the best. This is the way we grow. This is how living things grow. This is how evolution takes place. You know, initially there was a single cell being and it couldn't evolve anymore. So until it interacted with another living thing and they become one, a new living thing, then evolution started sparking in a fast move. It's necessary. Just as in living organism, you require this evolutionary approach. In society, you need this idea too. When two society or civilization meet, if they can incorporate the best of both, they'll produce a very solid, very far more advanced civilization very fast, much faster than that would have happened by just one civilization plodding along. When two meet up, you got opportunity of, that's what the issue is there. When the male and the female genes meet at the time of conception, it gives tremendous possibility for a new thing to come into being. Otherwise, the reproduction before was very limited, very slow. It's because you have male and female genes meeting up, allowing this greater variation, that the evolution shot up. Same in civilization. When civilizations meet, they must take the best from both and evolve very fast. This is Ram. You see, I never knew that when I had to study the Ramayana. That's what Ram is all about. He went to South India and integrated those civilizations. There was friction, but after that he pulled them together. Not overwhelm them, not demolish them, but make them their friends and grow. What a powerful message in modern society. We are talking about clash of civilizations now. What a powerful thing to re-examine, relevant today. So now let's go back to avatar. So different avatars in a way reflect the needs of the time. They can't help themselves. They will do that and let it be. Because in a way, this is the only way you can bring in the dynamic ideas of spirituality and infuse them in the society you interact. Because you love people. It's not happened because, oh, okay, I'm becoming an avatar now. You can't help yourself. You love humanity. So you'll give the best that you possess. and in the right format that they can digest. You see, like a mother cooking food for her children, she'll just make sure the little baby gets, you grind stuff, in the little grinder and make vegetables, and all the women are smiling, yes, we know. And then you feed the baby, spoon feed it, because it just suits his appetite. In the same way, a prophet, an avatar, will present idea of spirituality more suited to the appetite of the people he's interacting with. What else can he do? He loves them like a mother. He wants to give them the right mixture, nothing too heavy, and nothing too light or nothing too damaging, something nutritious. They will do that. Every prophet has done that. Every avatar has done that.
Fabulous. There we go. What an interesting thing to explore. Now, tomorrow is Christmas, widely celebrated in the Christian community. It's a day that celebrates the birth of Jesus Christ. Now, as we saw in Hinduism, there are many ways to look at prophets and what they say. And this is an interesting topic for us to see how Hindus view Jesus. So to carry on the discussion a little bit forward, I will call upon the team. So if we can get started with Vijay Bhai. Vijay Bhai, what is your take on this? What do you see the Hindu view on Jesus Christ as?
Okay, I think before even we start on that, I think the Hindu Sanatan Dharma, Sanatan actually means, eternal and universal. And Dharma is not a term limited only to, the Indian subcontinent. Dharma is universal term. So, in the idea, in Hindu idea, we believe that everybody is a divine person. And quite a few are very special. They get God realized. They understand the true nature, their own true reality, their true nature, which is a divine Atman. And when they do, quite a few people share, they have so much love, as Jaybai mentioned in the video. They have so much love for humanity because they feel the connection, the inner connection, deeper connection at the spirit level with everybody else. And then they want to explain that. So in that sense, for us, it doesn't matter where in the world where you are. Anybody can have this experience. And if it's very special experience, they can even uplift society from wherever they are. So in that sense, we see Jesus Christ as a God-realized person. And in that sense, in the Levant, in that area, when he was there, when he was God-realized, he actually said, kind of gave the message of, love, humanity, God, compassion. So in a way, he's God-realized. I think the key difference is that we do not see him as that only some can be prophets, some cannot. That's the key difference. That if anybody can become a prophet. If you reach that level of spirituality, then you can become prophet. And if you're at that level, then it wouldn't be that you're like, it's not like a chore. You want to share because you have so much love for humanity. You see the spirit everywhere. It's like Swami Vivekananda. Everywhere he saw divine spirit. And whenever he traveled all over India, he went to the remotest places in mostly infested tribal places. Everywhere he just saw the divine in everybody. And he wants to share that idea of the spirit and uplift the whole of society. So in that sense, Jesus, in our view, is a God-realized person. Sita?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the wonderful thing with Hinduism is that we really acknowledge that, spirituality is not just restricted to the Indian subcontinent. We recognize that spirituality can sort of spring from all sorts of pockets of the world. And I think we're living in a very, very, very lucky time, because what all of these different prophets and sages and, seers throughout history are actually sort of all coming together into one sort of mighty flood of spiritual knowledge that we can all have access to, because it's not just one particular prophet or one saint or one seer. We can actually combine all of them and look at all of these different religious teachings together. This idea of being able to study religions comparatively is beautiful, and we're lucky to be able to live in a time where we can do that. And I think what it really shows is that previously the world was very sort of isolated and disconnected, like we weren't connected to other countries and other cultures. But now having this sort of, science and technology, we're able to sort of make the world a much smaller place and look at these religions side by side and recognize that it's sort of an innate part of human nature to always look beyond the lens of the material world. It's something that's inherent, innate within all of us. And that's what these spiritual giants from different parts of the world are showing, is that we have this innate desire to want to reach out to something metaphysical. So we recognize that there are prophets and saints throughout the ages in different parts of the world, who teach their religion through, in jungles and caves and deserts and all of that. Now we're able to combine them all and look at them together and sort of look at the beauty of humanity's spiritual journey.
Amazing. So I think the key fundamental differences are the way the two sort of pathways, Hinduism and Christianity, where they differ is one is that in Hinduism, I think we accept that there are multiple pathways to God, whereas in Christianity, there is a fixed approach, which is that you believe in the concept of God, Jesus, the Bible, and the teachings, and it's blasphemy to think otherwise. So for us as Hindus, it is easier to accept. Even as a Christian, I don't think people view Jesus as a Christian per se. I don't think Jesus himself viewed himself as a Christian at that time. There was no concept of the word at that time. But I think most people would associate Jesus with the qualities of what we call a sadhu, a holy person, right? So somebody who, with his behavior and practice, has showcased what we would call his sadhana, or his way of practicing religion. And I think in India, since there is no church of Hinduism, everybody has their own ways of doing things. Most people would ask, what is your sadhana? What do you believe in? What do you practice in? And so that's a difference between how we can view other people from other religions and accept them by terms of their actions and their practices. Amazing. So what are some of the key, we have a question here. The reason I was asking this is we have a question here from Derek Hill. And the question is, what is the relation between Abrahamic and Sanatan religions? And the follow-up question he had to that was, what was the origin of both religions?
Okay. Yeah. So I think first thing, Nishit, the point you mentioned was really good. That I think the thing is that in the Abrahamic tradition, there have been many prophets. Jesus is but one. There's Moses, there's Abraham. There's been line of prophets. So the all God realized persons in Jesus. But I think we have to realize that what Jesus said, and perhaps what Christianity is practicing today, may not be the same things. One thing we have to keep in mind is that the Bible was actually finalized by the Council of Nicaea in nearly 350 years after the birth of Christ. And there was a very big debate actually in Nicaea between the different, Christian leaders. And eventually they finalized the Bible. The question is, we don't even know really what this actually said. Like, for example, they say, some people quote the Bible and say, look, God said you can only come to me through Jesus. Now, I don't know if Jesus said that or not. Perhaps he did say that only for the localized community, because they won't understand anything else. As Jay-Bai mentioned, the message has to be relative. If you just said, yeah, you can go to God in any way you want, perhaps they want a particular direction. So you may have said that or may not have said that. We do not know. But the thing is that quite often when you do this, and plus also there is there's a lot of personal agendas as well. And at that time in 325 or 250 AD, when the Bible was finalized, Emperor Constantine himself said that please don't put incarnation, because I have done so many bad things. I might end up with so many births. I'd rather have forgiveness from God and just go next step to heaven. So the thing is we do not know, but all we can say that is prophets have been coming through time again and again in every religion, not only Hinduism. And I know there are also I know in Islamic tradition, they say that Prophet Muhammad is the seal of the prophet, the last prophet. But there are some, even in Abrahamic faith, like Ahmadiyya, the Baha'is, they believe in the new prophets after him. So Hinduism believes that prophets, or at least God realized persons, come again and again. Doesn't matter which religion you belong to. So in that sense, Abrahamic faith and Sanatana religions are similar from a Hindu point of view, or in the Southern point of view. That's how we see it. Of course, the Abrahamic faiths have become exclusive because it helps to keep the flock together, I think the family has to give you control on the people. Plus, sometimes if you give them too many options, they may feel that, look, otherwise they can't focus on a particular belief. Otherwise, you get up, you become, everything goes. So maybe there are various reasons why it was made exclusive. But that's the difference with the two. In a sense, Sanatana does not believe in exclusivity. They believe there's many pathways. You can have many, whatever CA you like, whatever God person likes, you can choose to follow his teachings. So that's the kind of difference as of now. But the way we see it from our point of view, if you take out the exclusivity, then we believe that God relates person in every religion. So in that sense, it's Sanatana Dharma, is universal. So it depends what angle you see it from. Of course, the Abrahamic faith will disagree with me, but so be it. Sita?
Yeah, I think actually when you look at it, when you look at the heart of what Jesus has said, some of the things are they resonate incredibly with Hindu philosophy. Some of the things he says, like, I and my Father are one. And he says that the kingdom of heaven is within us. That's Advait Vedanta. That's the height of Hindu philosophy. And it's something that Jesus said. And what I find amazing is it's the same sort of principle. They've got the same sort of foundation principles. And, we have to acknowledge and recognize the similarity because we're all going on the same trajectory, even though we have very different sort of starting points. We are all going on the same trajectory towards the same spiritual realization. It's just a shame that sometimes these teachings are sort of taken out of context. They may be adjusted to suit the agendas of different organizations and different people. But when you look at the heart of all of these religions, there really is a tremendous amount of resonance. And the real sort of litmus test in your own spiritual journey is if you feel a resonance, if you feel an affinity with all individuals, doesn't matter what religion they are from, even if they have no religion at all, if they're just spiritual, you still feel a tremendous resonance with everyone around you, then according to Hinduism, that's the litmus test that you are actually making spiritual progress, because ultimately we are all on the same pathway. We are just different points on the sort of circumference of a circle. We start from very different places. And if you focus on the externals of any religion, then you think, oh, there's just so much difference. It looks completely contradictory. There's absolutely no similarity whatsoever. When you look at the externals of every religion, it looks like that. But when you look at the philosophical heart of every religion, they are all pointing towards the same direction. So if we focus our attention on the inner spiritual heart of all of these religions, we can really appreciate the value of the spiritual journey of these individuals who have discovered something amazing. And Sri Ramakrishna, in his life, obviously, he demonstrated such a depth, such a breadth of different spiritual approaches in his life, not just from a theoretical point of view, but from a completely practical point of view. And he was even able to practice the path of Christianity, and he even had a vision of Jesus. And he said he had a bit of a flat nose, which is incredible, the amount of detail that he was able to describe when he had this vision of Christ. So really what he is showing through his life, through a very sort of practical way, is that it's not just theory, it's not just fluffy, something nice, a happy thing to say, it's actually true. It's actually based on true spiritual experience.
Fabulous. So there are so many questions that are coming in. One of them that I have from Decent Anurag is that, is Jesus another form of God?
Yeah, so it depends how, of course, in the Advaita tradition, we are all God. So it's not like, so in that sense, if Jesus said God realized, then he's actually the divine, Brahman and Atman. So in that sense, I guess in the principal form, we can say, yes, he's a form of God. But I guess also as a worship, yes, why not? Whatever people feel takes them to spiritual progress, then these people can see Jesus as a form of God. I think the key problem comes when you say that exclusive only Jesus, anybody else burns in hellfire, then we have a problem with it. But if you say Jesus is a form of God and you worship him and to get closer to God, then that's absolutely fine. So in that sense, I guess we can say it's a form of God. Sita?
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, the fact that, I know Dad has said it many times, when you look at these spiritual giants, if you look at the life of Ram, the life of Krishna, the life of Jesus, the fact that they were able to influence millions of people over thousands of years suggests the possibility that there is something there, because all of us innately are looking for some kind of permanent solution to the human condition. And the fact that there are these incredible individuals in our history, in our human history, who have been able to touch base with that permanent solution to the human condition is something that is incredibly appealing. It can attract people, it draws people, and makes them feel sort of very uplifted spiritually. So the fact that these individuals have the power behind their words, the spiritual power behind their words, which have sort of rolled down even to the present day, suggests the possibility that there is definitely something special there. So we have to really sort of acknowledge and give thanks to these incredible individuals who are guiding us, because without their guidance, it's very easy to become lost on our spiritual journey. But again, Hinduism is very sort of open-minded and broad. It says, you know, don't just sort of hang on to the feet of these spiritual giants, even though they are spiritual giants, they are incredible individuals, but don't hang on to their feet. Just look at what they have taught, put it into practice in your own life, and progress from there. You don't hold on to, as Dad has said so many times, you don't hold on to the signpost. You're not going to get to your destination. You look at what the sign says and you follow the direction, and you will get there one day.
Fabulous, folks. So if you've just joined us, remember we are on a Christmas special episode at the moment. We are discussing how Hindus view Jesus Christ. We're sending our wishes for everybody who's celebrating the occasion tomorrow. And for those of you who are celebrating the festive occasion, the holiday season coming up, wishing you happy holidays. For those of our friends who are in the US, stay safe. I know it's minus 26 to minus 50 in some places, so be careful out there. And just a quick shout out to some of our regular viewers who tuned in today. We've got Cherish Jubilee. We've got Christine over from the US. We've got Derek Hale. We have Charmaine. We've got Magpie Moon. Good to see after a long time. We've got various other people on the call today, including Stephen, Decent Anurag, like I said, and a few others. Now, I have a comment here from Ellie Sebastian, and Ellie is saying that she was reading the Mandukya Upanishad and enlightenment without God. She says, I would say most people I know don't prescribe to a God that grants wishes. And I like that Hinduism accommodates this outlook. And we have another question from Magpie Moon saying that some people believe that Jesus came to Kashmir, that he was taken from his tomb and brought to India, where he lived out his days teaching. Do you have any thoughts on this, Vijay Bhai?
Okay, I mean, that one I haven't heard, but I've heard the other one, which is that there's a very big gap in his life. I think you see his early life, about I think 13 or 14 years, and then you see from 30 years on, you see his life back in in Mecca, in Jerusalem, doing different things, preaching and whatever. There's a big gap in the middle, and quite a few people say that actually at that big gap, which you can account for, he traveled all the way to Kashmir, and don't forget that time Kashmir was a great center of learning. The oldest center of learning in India is not Nalanda or Takshashila, which people commonly believe. It was the Sharda Peeth, dedicated to Ma Saraswati in Kashmir. That's one of the oldest center of learning, with thousands of learning in those cold climates. So it was very famous, famous for Shaivite tradition. So quite a few people believe that actually he traveled there and he studied a lot of Indic philosophy and Indian stuff. And then he went back to Jerusalem and he preached there. So in a way, of course, people have different views on that. But I think there is no concrete evidence as such. And the other thing you mentioned, that after his death from the tomb he was taken, if you say that Magpie Moon, then Christianity is going to collapse. You can't say that, because the whole idea of Christianity is that actually he was, he was not taken from his tomb. He actually resurrected on the fourth day, and he came and he gave a talk to his disciple, and then he ascended to heaven. If you say that, then Christianity is based on the key idea of Christianity, resurrection. So the tomb he came. If you take that away and say taken from the tomb silently away, then I'm sorry, Christianity would not have existed today if that was the case. I don't know of that part, but yes, I've heard stories. But I would say that take it with a pinch of salt, because we don't have concrete evidence. It may be a big gap in Christ's life that this particular years in the early 20s. That doesn't mean that he traveled. We do not know. That's all I can say to that, Sita.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's very difficult to know. And it's such thousands of years ago. It's very, very difficult to have any kind of evidence of this kind of thing. But I think what we just have to do is focus on their teachings, on the heart of their teachings. And incredibly, like from the various little snippets that I've, my limited experience of Christianity and what Christ taught, it looks like there are parts of what he says which talk about the idea of reincarnation, which I find incredible. I mean, the ancient Greeks and the ancient Egyptians also believed in the idea of reincarnation. So I find it amazing that he also sort of describes this in his words. And it's a shame that it was sort of taken out of the Christian teachings. It was declared, you can't even talk about this idea of reincarnation. It was replaced with this idea of heaven and hell, which I guess in a way keeps people focused. It keeps them wanting to make sure they live good and honest lives. But yes, I think there was this idea even prevalent within the Christian tradition at the very beginning. So yeah, fascinating to look at the similarities. We don't know the trajectory of Christ's life and if he came into contact with India or not, but there is a tremendous resonance between what Hindu philosophy says and what Christ also taught.
Fantastic. Now, Christmas is a big phenomenon across the world. It's a global occasion that's celebrated in many, many countries. And even in countries like, for example, India, you would find Christmas being celebrated in various places, whether it's in the corporate offices or it's in private schools where they have events or things celebrating Christmas, etc. And a lot of us pitch in and enjoy the occasion as well. So the question is, should Hindus celebrate Christmas? That's one question. And then the second thing is, you wouldn't see normally Diwali being celebrated in the same way in Western countries. So isn't it a case of double standards where it's okay to celebrate Christmas in a Hindu schools, but we don't see the same happening over in the West? What is the right thing? And should we stand up and make it more, how do I say it, accessible for everyone?
So I think, Nishima, what you're saying is why we celebrate Christmas in India, but not other way around with Diwali. I think one thing we have to understand is that Christianity came very early to India, actually. People don't realize that. I know we have a lot of, people and modern preachers, evangelists running from America everywhere to go to India to convert people. But actually, Christianity came to India, even sometimes people say, even before it came to Europe, or America is a new country, so we don't really care. But so it means Christianity is actually part of Indian tradition. The Malabar, I believe, church is really old in India. So it has been there for quite a while. So I guess in that sense, they've been celebrating Christ's life. Of course, the idea of Christmas itself is debatable because I think most scholars agree quite clearly that it's very unlikely he was born in December, Christ, 25th December. Primarily because the stars' positions that we know at the time described by the people who, I can't remember, the kings, and at that time when he was born, the nativity, stuff, the star locations and everything does not actually match. It matches more like April or something. So I think it's very unlikely he was born in December 25th. Nevertheless, in the Christmas time, there's been a lot of what do you call? There's been a lot of there's been a lot of what do you call celebration in the Western world, because the summer solstice, the winter solstice, and also we have a lot of pagan cultures, and it's quite like there's been picked up and kind of digested and made as Christian tradition to get more people to follow Christianity. That is the most likely reason. And I think, to be fair, I've talked to a lot of Christians and they kind of grudgingly agreed to that part. So in that sense, Christianity is not really, very unlikely. It's not really, but very unlikely because the birthday part of Christ in that sense. But look, India is special because India has been a home for so many religions. So it's not surprising that Christianity is celebrated in India. I mean, in Europe, even if you look at 1500 years ago, they're fighting over Christian, Catholics are fighting against Protestants. So they had no time for the religion. They're too busy fighting to get Christianity into place. So they came very late in India. Even at that time, time of the Buddha, 2500 BC, there was so much pluralism. So for India, it's very easy to celebrate Christianity. But in the Western world, it's quite difficult at that time. So it's only now, I guess, it's becoming more popular. I hope in the next 50, 100 years, it'll become more global, Diwali celebration. That's all I can say to that. Sita?
Yeah, I completely agree. Because Hinduism is so pluralistic, we have no problem with celebrating religious festivals of other traditions. We have absolutely no problem with it. We're very happy to participate in it. And we're living in a, well, it's not so Christian anymore, Christian country. So the fact that, we can celebrate Christmas alongside Christians is actually a wonderful opportunity. And, it's sort of ingrained in our sort of system, because right from primary school, we all participate in nativity plays, and we don't find any sort of issue with it whatsoever. And we're very happy to do that, because in a way it sort of enriches and broadens our spiritual sort of experience, the understanding that spirituality is not just restricted to one little part of the world. It is something that is experienced throughout the world by incredible individuals. So I think it's wonderful that we have the opportunity to celebrate not just Diwali, but Christmas and all other sort of religious festivals, especially here in London. Everything is so sort of, globalized. Everything is so together. And we can look at all of these beautiful celebrations. It's amazing that all of these religions have festivals at the time of winter, when, the days are dark, and they all have the same sort of focus on the idea of bringing light into our homes. So I think that's incredible. The same sort of, human mind is thinking in very sort of similar ways, even though we came from very different parts of the world. So I think that's a beautiful thing that we can do and something to celebrate. And I think possibly the reason why Christmas is such a global phenomenon is because of all the, the marketing, all the sort of commercialization of it. And a lot of people are, they get swept up in the colourful, lights and glitzy glamour and everything. But I think that's part of the fun of it. As long as we don't forget the heart of the spiritual message, I think why not?
True. So there are many things around this tradition that are not really very clear. For example, the date itself is not clear where it came about. It is certainly said, the tradition came from the pagan sort of religion. And a fun fact is that, in England and in the US, there were times when Christmas was banned. I'm talking about in the 1600s or something like that, because they believed that, it should not be, God and the pagan side of the things should not be mixed. And so there was a period of time when it was actually banned as a celebration as well. And in fact, I think it only became a formal holiday in the 1800s. So it's not even something that's very long time set in Christianity as well. Some of these things are, like we said, evolving to deal with the commercial aspect of life. But thank you, everybody, for joining us today, giving us your thoughts, comments, questions. We have a couple of things I want to share from the viewers here. So we had a comment from SS saying that India needs the revival of Sanskrit language. I'm not sure. It is a language that is supposed to be of the very highest level, but whether it has a practical application in day-to-day life today is something that I'm debating. I'm sure there will be a case for and against, but Vijay, what are your thoughts?
Okay, I personally think they should. I'll tell you why. Not because it'll be spoken, but if you look at the history, I mean, there's one thing that really influenced me was there's a professor, his name is Sunil Khilnani, who did a podcast on Sanskrit, on Panini grammar. You can search on BBC, it's really fantastic. And what he says is that for 1,000 years, the lingua franca for communication, not only India, Burma, Thailand, there was a lingua franca of communication among the the nobility and all this. So I think if you want access to India's historical records, or India's history, or India's literature, then Sanskrit will really help you to really get the grasp of your civilization. But in terms of modern spoken language, maybe not, because it's very formal and the way it's spoken is very abstract. I mean, there are, I know today, there's some villages in India who have done a spoken version of Sanskrit. They have slight variation and make spoken version. So it is possible. But you see, I'm also worried that I don't lose the diversity of India. India is such a beautiful country. We have 28 main languages or something really, some big number like that. If you look in the Indian rupee note, you see this 28. I don't want to lose that preservation. I want that diversity to be there as well. So of course, if you learn Sanskrit, I mean, I'm learning it as well. I learned basic Sanskrit. So I love it because it opens up. I mean, just like you mentioned earlier, the Mandukya Upanishad, if you read in Sanskrit, it sounds so more, it's only 12 verses on the idea of Om, on the idea of different states, wake state, dream state, deep sleep state. When you read that stuff in Sanskrit, it sounds far more poetic than in English. So in that sense, yes. But as a spoken language, I do not know. And I know people say that we should make the India's national language Sanskrit, everybody should learn that and make everything secondary. While that one I can debate, I would debate because I'm worried that even now languages are disappearing, because if I go to Gujarat, people are speaking English. That's a bit worrying for me as from a personal level, because I love Gujarati poetry. I love, all the great bard poets of India, like, Zaveri Chand Meghani, Gauri Shankar Vyas, Kapakalapi Kavi. And I get worried that nobody will read this kind of work, the great Gadvis of India, or same in all over India, not only in Gujarat, but all over India, we have great, very rich history of local languages as well. Even Tulsidas Ramayana is the local, Awadhi language, the Hindi dialect. So we have all these diversities. So I think we have to be careful that we want to preserve all this knowledge we have. And Sanskrit is but one in this big pool of amazing stuff that we have. Sita?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's one of those difficult things because it's an ancient language like Latin and all of that. But what we have to remember is that, as Vijay Bhai said, Sanskrit is an incredibly powerful language, and the fact that it has influenced Indo-European languages, it's influenced so many languages. It just shows that the power and the grammatically how perfect and everything it is. And as Vijay Bhai said, the fact that if you're able to understand it and read the original scriptures in Sanskrit, it's beautiful. And when you try and sort of translate it into other languages, there's something which is lost, which you can't really tangibly explain. There's something which is lost. So in that sense, you can understand that, it would be beautiful to keep that tradition alive. But we're living in a very globalized world, and English is the medium of the world, basically. And there are a lot of words that in English that you can't have a Sanskrit word for a computer or a telephone. So there's a lot of, in practical sense, it makes it more difficult. But I think if you study these ancient languages like Sanskrit academically, and you look at some of these verses, it's a wonderful opportunity. If you have the time and the resources to do so, it's a beautiful thing to do for sure.
Yep. So Vijay Bhai, you're right. There are 22 main
22,
languages.
Okay, 22. Yes.
A total of 121 languages, and 270 mother tongues. So regional dialects, etc. So India is a very diverse country with a rich culture, rich history, and painting it all in one brush may not be the right thing to do. For me, the only fear I have is that where am I going to get somebody who can teach me Sanskrit in the correct way? Because I would imagine that there are very, very few people who understand the true meaning of the Sanskrit language and can translate it in a way that we can understand what it means. So that was my only issue, because I've understood some of the concepts of Sanskrit are so abstract sometimes it's hard to translate that into a way that I can understand or grasp what they're trying to say. So that was my issue with it. So we come to a few other questions that we got from our viewers. So change. Ashin Thapa is asking, in Hindu mythology, why is it that God killed evil beings instead of transforming them? What is the need of such violence?
Sita?
That's a really good question. I mean, what we have to remember is these are stories, so they're not literally true. And I think, everyone sort of loves, when the bad guy is gotten rid of and, all of that. But actually, when you look at it in Hindu philosophy, there is no evil person, there is no bad person. Everyone is divine, no matter how horrible and how terrible the things this person does. We have to understand that everyone is divine. But the fact is that they may have got lost on their journey. And even when you look at some of this mythology, some of the demons which are in Hindu mythology, the story, there's a whole sort of backstory behind the demon, because, they were, previously they were good guys. and then they made a mistake, and then they fell under a curse of a rishi, and then they had to be born in a, you know, as a baddie, and then the baddie has to be killed, and then they realize that, oh, I am that good person, I've learned from my mistakes. So there is a whole backstory to a lot of these baddies and a lot of these demons. And I think it's beautiful that in Hinduism, no one is considered purely evil. There's just no concept of pure evil in Hinduism. Everyone and everything is divine, because if God is ultimate and everyone is a spark of the divine, then what else is there? There's no sort of polar opposite, you know, otherwise that's not ultimate enough. So if we think about it, everyone is good, everyone is divine. And even the baddies in a lot of this mythology, yes, they get killed, but then, oh, they're reincarnated and they realize who they truly are, and they're all goody goodies at the end of the day. So I think it's sort of showing the sort of meandering pathway that a lot of individuals take towards realizing who they truly are. You know, they go this way and that way, and they do this bad thing, and they realize they're not satisfied. And it's only when they do something purely good and they realize who they truly are that their journey comes to an end.
I think, Sita, you have nailed it. Absolutely. I think it is a mixture of different stories. There's some sort of transformation as well. There's quite a few stories here that, oh, the baddie has been turned into a tree or something for thousands of years, and Krishna comes and he frees them out from their curse. So there's a big mixture of all these stories. And quite often they reflect our human kind of aspirations as well. With human society, we have good, bad, evil. And Sita mentions, not only the stories, mythical stories, but also us on this meandering journey. You know, we go through suffering, pleasure, and we have to come on the other side. So in a way, it reflects our stories. If there was no, baddie and it's all nice, then I think it would not be fun to read the mythological stories. You need the baddies and the goodies to really get the message through of morality, of goodness, and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, I think read them for what they are. Don't take them literally. That's all I can say. Yeah.
Amazing. So our brother Trushar Bhai has sent some keywords from Sanskrit to English. He's saying, if you want to talk about computer, it's called Jnana Astra. If you want to talk about the TV, it's called Doordarshan. And it's called Gurbani. So yeah, we do have Sanskrit translations. Thank you, Trushar Bhai, for keeping it alive. So we have another question from Stephen, and he's saying, where can I buy a good copy of the Bhagavad Gita that is written, maybe say for English speakers or non-Hindus?
Yeah.
Is there any place you can recommend?
I don't know. I mean, all I can say is that I have read 3 versions actually. I've read one version of my own Swaminarayan translation, which is Vishishtadvait translation. I read the ISKCON one long time when I was young. And I have this one here. This is the one I like best. I leave it is by, I mentioned last time as well, is by the Ramakrishna Vivekananda Center. It's by Swami Nikhilanand. It's very simple and very, very, I mean, it's so small and very clear. You can't go wrong with it. It's very nicely explained. There is no complicated words as such. That's the one I use if I want to discuss in classroom, yeah. But I mean, there's so many variations. That's one I would recommend, but it's only my view. So please keep that in mind, Sita.
Yeah, I completely agree. The one from the Ramakrishna Mission is, for me as well, it's the most appealing one, and it resonates so well with the teachings of Swami Vivekananda. So I think that's beautiful.
Fabulous. So Vijay Bhai, you have an invitation, open invitation from Trushar Patel saying that we'd love to have you for a cup of vegan chai at some point, as he would love to learn from you.
I'd love to. Let's hope we can meet sometime.
Knowledge, he said you are. We have a question from Decent Anurag saying, can any one person be considered God, or is there a fixed form in Hinduism? Now, I know the answer to this one, but I'd love to hear it again.
Sita, you can have a go. Yeah. So.
Yeah. So sorry, I missed that. What was the question again?
Should anybody be considered as God, or is there a fixed form in Hinduism?
Oh yes, okay, yes, of course. So we are innately pluralistic in our approach, and we say that if God is ultimate, then why should he be restricted to only one particular way of looking at him or her or with the principle? So we have this beautiful example of ice and water. So depending on your temperament and your sort of needs and your wishes, God can come to you in the form of your desire. And interestingly, we don't say that God is, man is made in the image of God. We say God is made in the image of man, because we actually say we can make God how we want to see him or to see her. We can make God the mother goddess. We can make God as Ram or Krishna. We can make God a principle, and that's all okay. And we use this beautiful example from Sri Ramakrishna. Suppose, it's like ice and water. So the same spirit can be frozen into the person's choice of desire. We use in our primary Hinduism book, we have this story as well. You can freeze God in the shape of stars or cubes or round circles or squares, whatever shape you want. It's the same spirit at the end of the day. And that's essentially what Hinduism is all about. God is ultimate. He is all powerful. He can come to you in whatever form you desire. And that's the beauty of pluralism at the heart of Hinduism. Vijay Bhai? So you're on mute, Vijay.
I absolutely agree. I mean, there's not much more to add. I mean, God can be seen in a multitude of ways, and it accepts that everybody's different with different temperament, different ages. So everybody will see God in what suits them best. Yeah.
Amazing. So frozen in ice to take the shape as you want. Could be in liquid, takes the shape of whatever container you give it,
Yes.
or as steam can be formless.
Yeah.
So what a nice analogy. Amazing. We have a question from Clean World. Do souls have individual identity? Are souls mini version of Paramatma? And why have souls come here in the first place?
Yes.
Several questions, all wrapped up in one.
That's a very big question. The pages and pages have been written down by various Vedanta, scholars of that. There are different views on that. So I can give you just quick brief on that. For example, if you look at Adi Shankara, who was the Advaita, Vedantist philosopher. So he said that actually the soul is in the form of, the word is called Vibhu. Vibhu means all pervasive. So in your body, your whole body is charged with this kind of energy or current, which is the Atma, which is all pervasive. It's called Vibhu. And there's only one Vibhu in the whole world. There's one everywhere, but when it's localized, we call it the Atman. Ultimate is only one. And then you have Ramanuja, who goes that the soul is actually Anu Sukshma, means that it's in the form of an atom in your body, individualized, but they're still part of the overall body of God. So there's so many different views on this, because these are very fundamental questions that you have asked. So a lot of pages have written to that. So that depends on how you look at it. And when you say why have souls come in the first place, that's the biggest question. But all we can say is your soul is eternal. It is timeless, formless. It's never changing. It's always been there. And I like the very classic, I never forget this, that saying from Jay Bhavichi, because we are very special divine beings who are always eternally free, but we're stuck in a temporarily material journey. We have to come out of it again and go back to our original source. But why we in the first place here, even then you'll be surprised. A lot of acharyas got different views on that. Because if you ask Ramanuja goes that at the time of creation, all these countless number of souls want an opportunity to pray to God. So God did creation, so they get a chance to serve him. Whereas if you ask Adi Shankara, he goes, what creation? He goes, there's only illusion. So if you get to the illusion, you already know you are free, you just don't know it. So the different views on this. But that's the beauty about it, right? In Hinduism, that we can think deeply and everybody can have different views and still live side by side happily. But there's no clear-cut answer in that sense. There are different views on that. That's all I can say on that. I don't want to say more than that, Asita.
Yeah, I mean, so we understand from the philosophy that, we all have a soul which is eternal and pure and pristine. But when it gets caught up in this mind-body framework, it kind of becomes too attached to this material world. The material world is so sort of attractive that we link ourselves much more strongly with the material world than with our perfect nature. And the whole point of our spiritual journey is to rediscover or re-remember our pure and pristine, perfect nature. So the whole point is we have to try and focus our attention away from materialistic goals and aspirations towards more spiritual goals and aspirations. But Hinduism is very broad. It says that, you know, if you have the desire to follow material aspirations and goals, go for it. Because if you don't, and if you bottle up your desires, you're really going to become, you know, a mental case. You need to make sure that you follow those goals and aspirations. And when you realize that, oh, this didn't bring the happiness that I was expecting, or that happiness didn't last as long as I was hoping for it to be, then that maturity starts to arise within you naturally. So that journey is a very, very personal journey. It's not something that can be dictated to you, something that you must follow a set prescription. It's a very personal journey. And only when that maturity comes, that the happiness that you're seeking doesn't come from the material world, which is always changing, which is always temporary, that you then try and look for a more permanent solution, which is rediscovering our pure and pristine, perfect nature. And that's the whole point of our spiritual journey, as Vijay Bhai said. And as Swami Vivekananda says, we are not material beings on a spiritual journey. We are spiritual beings on a material journey, out to rediscover who we truly are.
Fabulous. So time has flown past. We are now 55 minutes into the broadcast. I am going to hold this to a close very shortly. We've had a great discussion today. We looked at how Hindus view Jesus. We looked at how Hindus celebrate or don't celebrate Christmas, and it's perfectly fine to do so. And we looked at various other questions that you, the viewers, have posted through the comments area on YouTube and Facebook. So to end our session for today, I'd like to leave you all with this quote. Today, I'm going back to a quote from Swami Vivekananda. And this quote is basically, 1 ounce of practice is worth 1,000 pounds of theory. So for those of you who are in the holiday mode and are looking to slow down, I would say this is a perfect chance for you to don't switch off. Carry on with your spiritual journey as you go through the holiday season. Use this extra time that you've got to join our various different, services that we've got, like the ebooks. Go and read the ebooks. Go and join the e-learning classes and so on. And wishing you all happy holidays. And we look forward to seeing you next Saturday again, 2 o'clock UK time. So thank you to the team over here. We've got Sitaben and Vijay Bhai today with us. Manish Bhai is away on his holiday break and couldn't join us. But once again, a huge thank you to all of you who turned up today and contributed so generously in terms of your comments, thoughts, and questions. Wishing you a great week ahead. Bye-bye for now.